What's going on with Cuban doctors in Spain? Today we'll find out and hear about a girl's experience. A doctor from Cuba now living in Spain has had to find other ways to make a living. Stay tuned to this video, it's going to be really interesting if you haven't heard about this before. Cuban doctors, well, they're doctors who, look, there may be a lot of shortages in Cuba, and that's true and all, but the knowledge Cuban doctors have really is incredible. And I'm telling you this because I know a lot of Cuban doctors, of course, because I'm Cuban, and maybe you'll say, well, of course you're going to speak well of Cuban doctors because you're Cuban. I have Cuban doctor friends who are incredibly intelligent, incredibly talented, and I say that Cuban doctors, with all the shortages there are in Cuba, to do their job, they need magic and a lot of knowledge. We won't discuss political issues or similar topics. In this video, we're simply going to talk about the situation of Cuban doctors here in Spain with the problem of degree recognition. In case you don't know me and you're wondering, who is this girl? Let me introduce myself. I'm Anita Mateo, I'm Cuban, I live in Spain, and I make videos about my life in Spain. I discuss topics about Cubans in Spain and anything I find interesting about Spain and Cuba. Recently, a Cuban doctors page on Instagram made me aware of the situation Cuban doctors are going through, and they asked me if I could talk about the topic. Honestly, I thought about it a lot because I said, well, it's not my cause. I'm an engineer and I'm also in a similar situation. In this mess of getting our degrees recognized so we can work here in Spain, I'm not very familiar with the medical field, so I don't want to make a video without enough knowledge. But I started to do a little research and I thought, well, let's make a separate video. I have family members, friends, a lot of them who are doctors, and they're having a really hard time with this degree recognition issue. So I said, well, why don't we make a video talking about this topic? Everyone wants to become the best version of themselves and improve their life. That's not a crime, and we all want to do it. Cuban doctors are very knowledgeable and skilled, I can assure you, but this isn't always the case for everyone. Just like there are good doctors and bad doctors here in Spain, there are also good and bad doctors in Cuba, but I know amazing people and amazing Cuban doctors, and they're having a really hard time with this situation. And many people will say, well, you're not in Cuba, you're in Spain, so here you're nobody. I don't think that's the right way to think. The right way is to allow and believe that we can all improve and that we can all practice. And what we study anywhere in the world, because no one can take knowledge away from you. In Cuba, the technology is very outdated, but the truth is that by studying here, validating your degrees. There are many Cuban doctors who have managed to get ahead and are very well liked. Here in Spain, that really is true, and I can assure you because I know them, so anyway, we all have the right to improve and get ahead in any country. If you're a Spaniard going to Switzerland, can you imagine being told your degree isn't valid? No, because if you have the knowledge, you'd want to validate your degree in Switzerland. For us Cubans, it's very complicated because, well, for everyone it's very complicated, even to validate our degrees. Until recently, this process took about 2 years. But for some time now, there was a little problem that made things even more complicated, and now it's taking longer. A lot of people have been waiting 3 years for their degrees to be recognized, so what have they had to do in the meantime? Well, work in jobs, you know. There are doctors who, when they arrive here, start working as waiters or whatever comes up, whatever job they can find. And today we're going to hear the story of a young woman, a really young woman who only worked as a doctor for 2 years in Cuba and is now here in Spain. So that's it. We're going to hear about her experience, and in the end, we'll see what's really going on and why is this whole process of recognition taking so long. I've already shared my experience here on the channel as an engineer. I mean, in Cuba, I was an engineer. I studied a university degree and all that. But obviously, when you move to another country, it's a different reality. It's a different country. If you didn't study here, then here you're nobody. Well, it's not that you're nobody, but simply here. I'm not an engineer here. I would have to go through a process to become an engineer, which, well, I'm going to do, so come along with me. I'm spending a few days in the Canary Islands. I made a video for you. Watch the previous one to see why I like the Canary Islands so much. Why are Canary Islanders and Cubans so similar? So go check it out. I'm here today with a friend who doesn't want to be on camera because they're a bit shy. But I'm very happy because I have many places in Spain, people I know to visit, and that way I can take advantage and get to know the place. And well, I just want to share these experiences with you all. I have to wait for the girl I'm going to interview who's going to tell us about her experience to finish work because obviously she has another job. I want to meet her. I know some doctors, so maybe I can interview a few, not just one. You'll see, this video has been wild. Thank you. think topics like this are better understood by people who emigrate, obviously, and move to another country. If you've lived your whole life in your birth country, much of your life is already set. In our country, we supposedly studied and had things, at least in my personal experience. I planned to stay in my country when I didn't have the possibility to leave. You move forward gradually, but what happens when you live in another country like millions of people worldwide? Because I don't know if the vast majority of people in the world move from the place where they were born. It's like your life starts over. At least for us Cubans, when we leave Cuba, it's like being born again. And we want to do so many things and we have very little time. Because you have to start working, you have to start building your future to see what you're going to do, what you're going to do with your life. Help your family in Cuba and also look out for yourself. Because here, without having a profession, without being anything, many times we just start working. Like, well, in whatever comes up, but you always want to do your vocation, what you like to do. And we have very little time to do it and to continue with our lives. And so it's something that I think only people who go through this can understand. If you've lived your whole life in one place, many people end up with a more settled, comfortable, and peaceful life. They might not understand, even though it's always something where you have to put yourself in other people's shoes and see that this life as an immigrant of moving to another country is not easy at all. Here's our guest. She'll tell us her name and then they come back. Obviously, as I mentioned, she studied medicine and is more comfortable if you want.
My name is Jose Amanda and I am 26 years old.
And Amanda, did you study medicine in Cuba? Yes?
I graduated in 2021.
But let's see, which province are you from?
From El Guin.
So, just so you understand, Guin is in the east of the country because Cuba has east, center, and west. Did you ever get to practice it?
Yes, I worked in Cuba for nearly 2 years.
You were a doctor for 2 years, and people came to you. What was your experience like as a doctor? Did you work during, the COVID syndrome?
I worked in the emergency room of the hospital in the municipality where I belong. And that was my only work experience, just that one.
But it was 2 years, yes?
2 years.
But, with the shortages and with all the things that everyone knows exist in Cuba, I don't know how it was in the end. At least in Matanzas, you would go to the hospital, and recently, there were no medications. Sometimes a lot of things were missing. How did you feel like that being a doctor?
That was very sad because honestly, there weren't any medicines. Well, there was practically nothing. Yeah, there were doctors, but the equipment didn't work. There were no medications to treat the patient. And so there was this conflict between the doctor and the patient. The patients complained a lot because with no one else to blame.
They blamed you, the doctors. They blamed us.
Exactly.
And how did you feel about that?
No, I felt powerless in that situation.
So you felt like the patient was being mistreated, and obviously you felt powerless because you couldn't solve their problem, but at the same time you couldn't do anything about the lack of supplies either.
They basically blamed us because we were the ones they saw, and so in a way we were the ones who bore the consequences of the situation we were in.
Exactly. And how did you decide to leave Cuba for Dubai? Why did you make that decision?
First of all, because of the very precarious situation in Cuba, or that there is, and also because I have family members here.
When did you arrive in Spain?
I arrived about 9 months ago.
Only 9 months. So what were your culture shocks when you arrived in Spain, seeing that here now, for example, you liked being a doctor, you liked your profession, right? Yes, and seeing that here now you have to wait how long to do what's called the TIC exam?
Well, aside from medicine itself, it's very sad because I'm crazy, because I don't even try to practice. But when I got here and saw everything there was, such a drastic change culturally in terms of...
That there's food?
That there's food?
Everything, exactly. And all that, of course, that's what impresses us.
Everyone. The material part is fundamental because in Cuba you live with shortages all the time.
After you get dazzled by all the things, material things and so on, then you come back to the reality that, you have to build your future here too, right? Have a profession and all that. And has it been hard for you not being able to work as a doctor here yet and having to do something else?
Exactly, and even more so, I already submitted my documents, and now in March, it's been 24 months since I submitted them. And at this point in my life, they still haven't given me any information. They don't tell me anything.
4 months or 2 years?
2 years.
2 years after submitting the papers, still nothing.
They give me no answers at all. It's just the doctors, I guess.
to all the doctors, and what happened with the recognition process? I'm not sure if you want to discuss it since it might be complicated and I don't know much, but I do know there was a recent strike in Madrid because it's taking so long.
It's taking a really long time, but honestly, I don't really know. I don't know very well because there was a level of fraud in Madrid, according to what they said.
I've heard about the fraud, but since we don't know much and it's a sensitive topic, let's not discuss it. Would you like to share what you're working on or how you're feeling?
Yes, I'm currently working at a bazaar. Yes, I've been at that bazaar for about 2 or 3 months, and it's going really well for me, so to speak.
And I've seen a big contrast going from being a doctor, which is a profession, you're an important professional, you know, and one of the most important professions in the world, to, well, now working at a discount store, which isn't less important, but it's not a university degree job, and you are, after all, a university graduate. How did you feel?
It was comfortable, so to speak, but when I got here, after about the first month, I started working at whatever came up until my papers arrived. Then, when my papers arrived, I worked at a rotisserie chicken place, that's what they call it here. I was only there for a while, and now that I'm here at the discount store, yes, things are going well for me. I'm comfortable, but I would really like to have my papers because that's what I need to work in my profession.
I mentioned that you gave me a bit of your break time since you have to work until late tonight, right?
Yes, I work 9.5 hours a day from Monday to Saturday.
Wow, that's a lot, isn't it? It really is. But you said you feel comfortable there, yes? Meanwhile, you'll wait for the papers. You'd like to be a doctor here in Spain?
Of course.
And your future is here? Do you see it here in Spain? For now, yes. Another thing I wanted to ask is about getting your medical degree recognized here in Spain. How does that work? I mean, in my case, which was just regular industrial engineering, I had to get it legalized over there at the MINREX, right? And then at the embassy and bring it here. But in my case, the degree, they told me that my industrial engineering degree is not the same as industrial engineering here. Now, is medicine recognized directly like that?
Yes, it is validated. You still go to the MINSAC, but the worst thing for doctors is the delay with those documents.
MINSAC is the Ministry of Public Health over there in Cuba. Over there in Cuba, exactly. And what do you have to do? Legalize it and have it recognized there.
Yes, everything is over there in Cuba, but the worst part is the delay with those documents. In Cuba, they take a very long time.
A lot. Some people say the bureaucracy in Spain is horrible. In Cuba, it's worse. In Cuba,
These are documents that should take about 3 months, but they can take a year for you to get them. And that's a critical situation happening in Cuba right now. Thank you.
And I really hope, honestly, that I hope I have a lot of friends who are doctors, and I hope this issue gets resolved really quickly because now I know you, but Dianelle and my best friends, many of my best friends are doctors who are here in Spain waiting for that paper. How do you feel about what this situation will be like in the future?
Some doctors have waited up to 3 years for their papers and still haven't received them. That's why I agreed to make this video. Because it's a situation where we're all desperate for it to come out so we can contribute from our side.
No, me too. And I wanted to make this video because there's an Instagram group for credential recognition for Cuban doctors, it's called that, and they wrote to me. I don't know much about the topic since I'm not a doctor, so I decided to find someone who is living this experience and wants to make a video and share. And when you become a doctor, you want to stay here in Gran Canaria and be a doctor here in Gran Canaria?
I want to work for about 2 years, then take the MIR exam, and then see if I go for a specialty.
Which specialty would you like?
Well, I've always liked child psychiatry. Yes, but that depends on what I get at that moment.
Of course, I don't know how that works in Spain.
Me neither. I mean, it's just like looking for a position or something like that.
I don't know much about medical stuff, but well, it's interesting because it's such a broad profession. It can be thousands of things. And here in Spain, a doctor lives pretty well, right? How much can a doctor's salary be here?
I think the minimum is like 2,000 euros, but it depends. I mean, you never really get paid like that. Well, maybe, yeah. But with the on-call shifts and everything, it goes up.
I wanted to thank Amanda for doing this video. She was excited at first but got nervous when she saw the camera, and recording it took a lot of work. So give it a like and leave her a hopeful comment. And also let us know down below in the comments what you think about this topic. Thank you so much for being here. As you could see, I didn't want to talk about this topic with her because they themselves are very careful when it comes to discussing this, but I did some research online to find out why the degree recognition process is taking so long. I also talked to some other doctor friends of mine to see what's going on. Most of the friends I have who have already submitted their homologation have been waiting for 2 or even 3 years, and they haven't received any response. Recently, I was in Madrid, where Cuban doctors were demonstrating for recognition of their qualifications after waiting many years. And this is happening to Cubans right now because with other nationalities the process is moving faster, but with Cubans there was a little setback. Here in Spain, having your medical degree recognized is key to being able to take the MIR, which is the exam to become a resident doctor and practice the profession here if you studied outside the European Union. Of course, the European Union has its own requirements, and if you study outside of it, you have to get your degree recognized. Now, for doctors to submit this recognition, what do they have to do? They have to submit a lot of documentation and a lot of paperwork. Among them are the application itself and proof of payment of the corresponding fee. A certified copy of the document that proves your identity and nationality as the applicant, a certified copy of the degree, and the academic transcript of the studies completed to obtain this degree. Basically, almost the same things that I also have to submit for my engineering degree, although each degree is completely different. There is also a major migration crisis right now, much bigger, and this could also lead to much longer waiting times for this to happen because there are so many people migrating to this country and many others. Besides, everyone knows the system here in Spain, the bureaucracy and all that, which takes a while. Well, I'm reading online that since 2021, Cuban doctors have been protesting a lot about this situation. On January 26th, I think I was in Madrid on that date, there was one of these demonstrations that didn't have that many people, but even so, I think they managed to have 2 meetings with the Secretary of Universities here in Spain, which is quite an achievement. For example, in Cuba, you can't protest. In Cuba, you have a salary that isn't enough for anything, but it doesn't help at all to protest. You're not going to achieve anything. At least in Spain, we all have the freedom to protest, to go on strike if you don't agree with something. If you do that in Cuba, my dear, you go to jail or they take away your degree as a doctor, an engineer, whatever you are. And recently the law was updated. A new law came out and now they're submitting the degrees again because with this new law, they were supposed to be processed faster. Especially my generation, a lot of people are emigrating because they're graduating and facing so many obstacles and they're having a terrible time in the hospitals there because there are no medicines, there's nothing. They're restricting many doctors in Cuba from leaving after graduation because so many are leaving due to poor conditions. And all of that has increased this massive migration, and many people know that here in Spain they have the opportunity to get their degrees recognized and practice and to have a better life, even if at first you have to struggle like so many people do. But you know what? It's a path of endurance, little by little, not about speed, and in the end you can achieve it. It's just that it's taking too long and many people are having a hard time with this. From what I understand, what happened is that because of bureaucracy, I don't want to go too deep into the subject because it's a complicated issue. But from what I understand, with a certain person, there was a forgery of a document, but it was a medical person, I suppose, and what was forged was a document. They asked for it because the delay was so long that they tried to find a way to make it faster. And of course, the innocent pay for the guilty. Now all the doctors are paying because now they're checking all the documents much more thoroughly. That's totally understandable, so there won't be any more fraud, none at all. That's wrong, fraud is wrong. It's just that because of one person who did something wrong, everyone else is paying for it, and there are many who have been waiting for years. This is the reason why it's taking so long. Besides all the bureaucracy, the massive migration, all those factors are making this process take so long. Honestly, I have so many people close to me that I know what they're going through and they've had to find work, really tough jobs. After all their intelligence and studies, I support their degrees being recognized and their right to a dignified life in a free country. Everyone should support this, not say go back to your country, because there's always someone who hasn't lived through this experience or had a hard time, and they always say people should go back to Cuba. I think that's a really bad opinion. I just want to make this little video. I wanted to do it to support all these Cuban doctors, and I really hope this situation gets resolved as soon as possible. Everyone should act correctly and all doctors must present their real and proper documents. And also, bureaucracy in Spain is complicated. But hopefully they process these documents a little faster so they can practice, because honestly, Cuban professionals are very good. That's something I truly stand by. Even in Cuba, without having medicines, without having anything, they treated you well. So just imagine in Spain where they'll be able to practice their profession freely and as they should. And well, I hope you liked this video, that it was a bit informative for you. It was quite hard for me to make it because I didn't want to go too deep into this topic, but well, I did it anyway, as a way to support all the doctors. Many people wrote to me since I have many followers from Spain, so I made this short video to help them. I hope you found it informative and enjoyed it. Subscribe, give it a like if you enjoyed it, all those little things. I'm sending you a big kiss and I'll see you next Friday with a new video. Bye.